Hello, world. This is the Parenting Autism Podcast. Sandy always laughs at me when I do our intro. But anyway, thank you all for listening. We surely appreciate it. And we hope that you come away with some nuggets from episode 30. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Chris. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting to hear hello, world. But I guess this does reach around the world.
It does. It's a big world out there.
I don't know. Maybe I have the giggles. But anyway.
Giggles are good.
Giggles are
That's
good.
joy.
Yeah, or I'm delirious, one or the other. So we're back behind the mics here, ready to have a little conversation to share with the world, as you have put it out there. So we talked about what's been going on around here lately, and some of the highlights we will mention will be your trip down to Miami Children's, an update on Bryce there. Also about the therapies, how they're all kind of clicking together, but also a new one that we're about to introduce to him this coming week that we're excited about. And some new ways that may help people find our podcast.
Sounds good.
All right.
Let's take off like an airplane.
Because there's a lot of airplane talk here at the Culture Hotel.
Roger
with Bryce. That. So I wanted to start with Miami Children's, I think.
Okay.
That would be a good place to start.
Sure.
So last year, it was about a year ago, that we took Bryce down to see, her name is Dr. Lala, and that's legit. It's kind of funny. But anyway, Dr. Lala, really nice doctor in the Miami Children's Network, and she is a, how do you say it, babe? I always mess it up. Geneticist?
Yeah.
Yeah, a geneticist. And so
I want to do a disclaimer on this podcast that
yes,
we have our nephew Storm over, and he's playing with Bryce, so you may hear them in the background with their games or the train or the Polar Express movie. So
there may be background noise.
Yes.
Okay. I thought you were going to do a disclaimer about this, and I'll go ahead and do one. When we talk about the things that we do for Bryce, like as far as the doctors that we see, maybe supplements that we try, therapies that we try, that sort of thing, we're just here to talk about Bryce. We're not here to recommend anything specific to anyone, because we understand and recognize that every single child and every single family dynamic is different.
Yep. And
our hope and goal is just that by sharing our story, it may help someone in some way, but it's by all means not any type of recipe for...
It's not a blanket recommendation.
Yeah, I didn't know how to finish that.
It's
definitely not a recipe for a cure.
Every child is different, and we just share what works and what doesn't work for us.
Yep. So that's what we're talking about. And so one of the things that we wanted to do last year was to dig a little deeper into the genetics aspect of Bryce's autism. And so we had some pretty extensive blood work done on him, testing all kinds of levels of different things, honestly I didn't even know were in the human body, because I don't remember that much back to biology. But we did find that he had some deficiencies in some things, and overages and other things, and that's when we had put together his combination of supplements that we've been doing and that we have shared previously here on the podcast. And
the two that he was low in was vitamin D and L-carnitine, and the doctors recommended us supplementing him with those.
Yeah, and the geneticist, his regular doctor, his primary doctor, she wasn't comfortable doing that, so we went down to get a proper dosage for Bryce, because it all ties to weight. So anyway, so about a month ago, we had new blood work done just to kind of see where his levels were at. And now instead of having a deficiency, it was reading that he was on the high end of the L-carnitine.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure at what point to test him. Like he was given the supplement in the morning, and then he was tested in the afternoon. So I was concerned that it was high because it wasn't like a fasting blood work. He had the supplement earlier in the day, so
that's a true, valid point.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to contact the geneticist, because she's the one that recommended the L-carnitine supplement, and she also recommended the dosage for that and the dosage for the vitamin D. So we kind of did it backwards. We had the blood work done, and then I reached out to the geneticist to find out if we did it right, because our primary care, I either didn't ask or I just assumed or whatever. So anyway,
so you reached out to Dr. Lala.
I did.
Her office just basically said, she said it looks okay.
Yeah, and I wish I could have spoken with her in person, but it was through the chain of command. I faxed over the results, and I said, hey, I'm concerned that because we gave him the supplements in the morning, that the afternoon blood draw may be reflecting that. So I decided to go to a different doctor in the same group, and she is actually the director of the genetic department there at Nicklaus Children's Hospital, which is
I always say
formerly
Miami
Children's,
because that's what it was when Bryce was there.
So anyway, we went to see her and Dr. Jayakar, and she looked over the results, and she says, well, he wasn't very low when we started supplementing him, so that with his change of diet since then, he may be getting enough carnitine through food, because he does eat a variety of different foods. So she wants to do fasting 2 weeks of the supplement, and then we'll have his blood drawn again and see where he's at. And also, she wanted to do whole genome testing, which is where they do it's kind of like Ancestry.com or 23andMe. You get the swab, and you swab the cheek to get the DNA, and then they map out your whole gene chain. And so from there, they'll be able to discover whether he has any mutations or deletions, or they can look closely at the autism, the genes that they've found that are that have to do with autism. And either now or in the future, they can recommend things that might help Bryce based on those results.
I think that's wonderful that we'll have that information, because we have a whole lifetime ahead of us, and with technology and studies and so much more awareness for autism, they may not have something that can help him today, but maybe 10 years from now
and we did
they
check
will.
the box that will let them enter his information into a study. Like if there's a study of kids on the spectrum and they need gene information, he can be submitted anonymously with his results. So it's kind of a controversial subject, getting the whole genome done, because some people are worried, well, what if somebody hacks in and they get your gene information?
I've never even heard of this.
Yeah, so some people can be like, oh, I would never give out my DNA, but we felt it was best for Bryce and his situation, and that's where we're at.
And what else did she say when you were there? I know I didn't get to go on this particular visit.
She said that I asked her about the other supplements that we were giving, and I wanted her take on supplements other than the ones that he was low on. And I didn't tell her what we were giving him. We didn't really get into the depth in that, because she told me right off the bat that there's no studies out there that show any type of supplementation can improve autism. She said the biggest factor that helps kids with autism is the speech and the OT and the ABA. She says those therapies, if you have those, you're golden. Those will make the biggest difference in Bryce's development. And so I was a little taken back because she didn't even want to address the supplement, the supplements.
Yeah.
But, and, we're kind of in our own circle, doctors, they go by studies, and I totally understand that. But when you have a lot of people talking about specific supplements that help their child, you can't help but to think, would this help Bryce? And the supplements that we're giving him, I don't feel like they would harm him in any way. Like, for instance, the fish oil is supposed to help your brain.
Right.
So giving him fish oil, I don't believe is harming him in any way. And that's the way I like to keep it as far as supplements go. I don't really like to try anything that's under, I don't know, that's not naturally occurring, that the body uses, So
I gotcha. Well, I think, it leads to a topic of discussion about, well, is there a right or is there a wrong way to treat your child? Because I think, since we've been on this journey for the past 3.5 years, of course, the first thing we were told was by a doctor. So it was ABA, ABA, ABA. I mean, that was like the strongest one.
His neurologist was like, you got to do this ASAP.
Yes. So ABA, ABA, ABA. And then obviously the language and the occupational therapies as well. So we did. We went that route. Our mind's still spinning, trying to process everything. And then you started going and finding more research on the biomedical. And we went to the conference in Georgia last year for TACA. And, we heard a lot of testimonials, and I also took note that there were a lot of parents there, some who were keynote speakers or some that were volunteers there that maybe shared a part of their story, but they also tried everything that they could possibly think of to help their children. I mean, to the extent of those oxygen chambers and
hyperbaric chambers.
Yeah, the hyperbaric chamber, and putting your feet in the foot bath to draw out the metal toxins.
And look, some of those things might work for those children.
I know.
We haven't tried those specific things, but yeah.
My point being is I've seen some of them go through all of those things, all of them, and their child still didn't make any type of full recovery.
Right.
Because you hear that word recovery, which kind of makes me cringe personally.
And,
I
some of them were like it didn't help at all. So you have to, and that's one of the things that the Dr. Jayakar said, some parents, they spend tens of thousands of dollars on supplements and treatments and all these things, and they don't work. When, I think sometimes they don't work. Sometimes they do. Sometimes, like we've discussed before, it's hard to tell. You introduce a new supplement or something new into your routine, and then all of a sudden you see new language. So is it a coincidence because, he's getting older, his brain is still developing, or he just picked up on something?
I know.
Or if it really is the thing that you're just now trying, it's
Well, this is a conversation that's been going on for the past week or two, specifically because we are in a good place right now where Bryce seems to be really
that was him.
Yeah, you heard that, but no, really, he's really beginning to communicate a little more. He's so excited, like with Christmas, and we had mentioned, last time that he's starting to speak in sentences more, which you're working with him on that with school. But I also know that we now have a team working with us, a team of therapists working with us.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I see a huge difference. Now, does that contribute to the therapies that we've just reinstated?
Right.
Or does it have to do with him maturing? Or does it have to do with the supplement? How does diet tie into all of this? Because,
Right.
we had done the episode where we went 100% in on the gluten-free and the
Right.
dairy-free, and we were seeing better things. And I think we did. Actually, I think that gluten, taking that out of his diet completely, I think gave him a pretty good cleansing.
Yeah. And now I'd say he's mostly gluten dairy free, but we are making exceptions from time to time.
Yeah, like he likes Ritz crackers. So when he goes to Mamaw's house, he knows it's a special treat that he gets Circle crackers. Is that going to set him back? Is that going to put him into some type of dazed state again where he's kind of, foggy?
We haven't seen it.
We have not seen that. And he doesn't eat grilled cheese sandwiches, which is a double whammy of gluten and dairy. He doesn't.
Right.
He will have pizza. We've tried to scale it back to once a week. And yes, we know that there are gluten-free or cauliflower crust. He is not digging that. So we'd also, I was also pointing out, let's get like the New York style, that it's not as thick of crust. And the cheeses are mozzarella, which is a much milder cheese than Parmesan or some others that, can affect him. So, I think we're making good judgments there and getting healthier foods into him. And I do think, talking about diet, by cleansing the majority, like actually giving him a good cleansing of both for a period of time and then gradually reintroducing occasionally, it opened his palate to a lot more options for food. And I think it really expanded his menu.
We know that true dairy like milk or Parmesan cheese are big offenders for him. So he will break out in pimples. So we know that affects his body. That's the outward signs that we can see, and we have no idea what's going on inside. So he doesn't drink milk. He drinks water.
He doesn't get ice cream very rarely. He doesn't have, he gets a yogurt that isn't dairy-free.
Dairy-free, yeah.
Yeah. So we've really come a long way on that. But again, it's like, what's helping, what's not helping, what's harming him, what's not harming him. And it's a constant, and I imagine it's going to remain a constant change, because I know, like speaking for myself, my body is changing and I can't eat the foods that I used to be able to eat. It develops reflux or the dairy allergy, and, you have your own reaction to foods when you eat that. So, as our bodies continue to change, that's going to happen with Bryce. So what may work today may not work 5 years from now or a year from now. We'll keep doing that. But I was saying, well, so what should we do about the supplements? Should we continue to give them? Should we not? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's an expensive thing, but I can't put a price on Bryce being well. So if it makes sense and is truly benefiting him, then we'll continue to pay hundreds of dollars for these supplements to get them for him. But if he doesn't really need them because he's thriving with just the therapies, then we don't need to donate that money.
And
you know what I mean?
getting the nutrients from food, so So we're still in discussion about that. And back to the genetic test, just to give everybody an idea, they said that there's two ways you can do it. You can draw blood or you can do the cheek swab. And I said, well, which one is more effective? Which one is more reliable? And they said either one is. They're equally reliable. I said, okay, well, we'll do the cheek swab. So I just went in and I told him we were going to brush his teeth with this.
That was very clever.
This cotton swab looking thing. It's probably 3 times as big as your regular cotton swab. So we went in and we brushed his cheeks, and you put it in this package and you send it off FedEx overnight. So they said that it takes 4 to 5 months to get those results back. So we have an appointment at the end of April to go back and discuss the results of those.
Yeah, and then the other thing that came up during your meeting with her is possibly doing another MRI for his brain, to do another brain scan.
Yeah.
Because if this is your first time listening to us and you don't know our backstory, the day after Bryce was born, he had a brain hemorrhage. So he has a very large area where there was a bleed in his brain. It was actually grade 4 because it had spread into another part of his brain. So he is our little miracle, and that's why he is under the care with Miami Children's or Nicklaus now.
And she was concerned because it showed his last EEG was abnormal, and that's true.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so we saw it on the EEG monitor, the spikes that are in the back of his brain there, from that area where the bleed was. And that what that means is that there's still residual blood there that's irritating the brain. So blood is not supposed to be on the outside of the brain. It's supposed to be on the inside in the blood vessels and veins and all that. So when it gets on the outside, it irritates the brain, and you get those spikes on the EEG. So she was concerned that even though we're not seeing seizures on the outside, it may not mean that he's still not having them on the inside, I guess.
Yeah.
So she suggested that his neurologist follow up with a MRI just to take a look and see how he's doing there.
Yeah, and I think 2 years ago when we went through this with his EEG, and he handled that really well. And we didn't even know how he would do that. But when we talked about MRI, I don't think it would be as beneficial if he was sedated. That was kind of the topic. Would they get the results if he was sedated? And at that time, he was 4, and we're like,
there's no way.
And there was not enough communication or understanding on his part. I mean, because he was still like at the level of 2. So imagine putting a 2-year-old for an MRI awake, not happening.
I don't even know that he could sit there
now
at this age, because that's like 4 or 5 minutes. I think that he's in there.
So I think
we'll see. We'll talk to the doctor.
Yeah, we'll talk some more. It will definitely take some planning, and that will be talk about the ultimate preparation. It will require a social story. It will require a video. It will require a lot of preparation, but he's pretty good if we prepare him for what's going to happen and then have a nice reward on the backside. I think we should be able to do it. And as soon as you said that, I kind of just had peace, like, actually, I think we should. We haven't done it. We haven't had an MRI since he was 8 months old, because they had, obviously, the first week he was born. That was done a few times. And then at 6 weeks, we took him back. And then we took him back at 8 months.
Are you talking about EEG?
No, I'm talking MRI.
Oh, I forgot that he had more than one MRI.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
so we
went back 2 different times to Miami.
It was bigger.
Yeah. So, but again, he hasn't had that since 8 months old.
Right.
So his brain has significantly grown and changed. And I do feel like maybe God sent us down there to her to bring that up, to prompt that. Yes, I always feel like everything happens for a reason, and I try not to miss those reasons. And I just felt peace in my spirit, like, that's what we should do. So I'm sure that's something that will come up later for discussion on here when that should take place. But so anyway, so that's what's been going on, in the medical arena for us, but all in a good way, always learning. And I think as parents, you just want to know that you've done what you can and should do for your child. And that's just what we're doing.
Yep.
So the therapies we had mentioned that he's doing, it really is going so well. I mean, we're very, very pleased, because I feel like we've made it through the hurdles. He looks forward to them now. He really likes all of his therapists. So a little story you can share from when Miss Kim, who is his main behavior therapist, so she's the BCBA that writes his plan. She came over, and we had rain this week quite a bit. And so didn't you say that he didn't want her to leave in the rain?
Yeah, so she was able to witness that behavior. So she was getting ready to leave, and he's like, no, you can't go. You can't. It's raining. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. So we've seen this behavior before with Bryce, with us, and it's hit or miss. Sometimes he has it, sometimes he doesn't. I can't pin down exactly the situations that triggers it, but she just got down on his level, and she said, it's okay. She says, I'm going to drive very carefully, and I will be safe. So she said that a couple of times to him, and he seemed to get it. And he let her leave. So it was
I was glad
success.
she got to see that, and witness how that is. It's kind of funny because the last time we did a podcast, well, I mentioned that you were not feeling well and about to get sick, and that did happen. So that's why we've been gone a couple more weeks. But anyway, but what happened, I think we recorded on Sunday, and I was telling you about the escalators and, how he was wanting to protect people. And as I talked about it more, I figured out on the escalator specifically, he needed to stand behind them if they were going up, and he needed to stand in front of them if they were going down. Because in his mind, that's how he could protect them, I guess, in case they fall.
Maybe.
That's what I'm thinking, just because he was real specific about that. And so, you really hadn't witnessed what I was describing. And then the next day you sent me a note and said, remind me to tell you about the library. And I'm like, I bet it has to do with the doors and protecting somebody. And sure enough, that's what it was. You said you were standing there, and our library has one of those handicap buttons, which Bryce is all about pushing the handicap button so that the doors will automatically open. But he wants to push it because, again, it reduces his anxiety and his fears, because if he's controlling it, then he knows when it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. So apparently a lady was coming in through the doors, and Bryce saw her coming through before he could push the button to protect her, and he pushed her out.
Yeah, he met her at the door and pushed her back.
It's like saying, no.
My whole life was flashing before my eyes. I could not believe it. In 1 second, I was standing at the counter with Bryce talking to the librarian about a book or something. And the split second later, he's 25 feet away from me, pushing the button, screaming, no, stop. And I just couldn't believe it. Was like the whole thing was in slow motion. I couldn't believe he got away from me just like that to go do that. I wasn't holding his hand, but he was very calmly standing there with me while I was talking to the librarian, and I didn't have my two eyes on him. I was talking to the librarian, and he must have saw somebody coming up, and boom, he was right there. Fortunately, the lady was a special education teacher. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I said my son has autism, and he's got this thing with doors and people being afraid for people. And she says, that's okay. She says, I've been in special education for like 16 years. It's okay. I said, well, thank God it was you.
That is the
and not
truth.
Somebody else. I mean, because if it was somebody elderly, that could be bad news, So I've taken some pictures of the door and the button, and our ABA, BCBA is going to come over, and she's going to work with us about the situation. We're going to do a social story and, get him acclimated to the right ways and the wrong ways before we go visit the library and with the real deal,
Well, that is the key. I mean, when I came home that night and you were starting to tell me Bryce came in, and he came in to sit on my lap, and I said, well, wait a minute, Daddy's telling me about the library today. And he went, no. And I'm like, oh, you don't want Daddy to tell me about the library today? No. So he knew, right? So I said, no, Daddy needs to finish his story. So you did. And so then I asked him, I said, was she in danger? Yes. I said, were you trying to protect her? Yes. Which I know that's accurate in his mind. So, you want to, it's a delicate thing because you want him to be compassionate and caring about people. So you don't want to strip that from him by being harsh and disciplining him, right? But it's like you said, he has to learn the right way. So my immediate response with that was, that's great that you want to protect her and help her, because that's a good thing and that's a green choice. But you have to find a better way to do it. You can't touch her, and you can't yell. You have to just say, stop, please. I want to help you. And I said, can you say that? And then he repeated it. Stop, please. I want to help you. I said, yeah, that's what you say. So if you see someone in danger, don't touch them. You can say, stop, please. I want to help you. So it's like you said, if we give him the tools in advance and then take him back to a public place, then we may hopefully help him learn how to respond carefully. I was seriously envisioning a Superman cape that is made entirely with the puzzle piece logo so that he's got his, autism super cape because he's there to rescue people because that's just how he is in his heart. And you don't want to feel like you have to explain that to everybody, and yet you do because it's happening, But anyway, that's why we've got these therapies, and I'm so grateful that we have a therapy team to help us, with these kind of things, because it's very real, and it's things that, yes, you and I, we really do a great job of understanding him to a very large degree, and how to respond to him without triggering, him to get upset. But having input from other people who have actually studied the science, I find that valuable and appreciative. But the new therapy that mentioned in the beginning that is going to begin this Wednesday is
equine therapy.
Yeah,
I think
with the horse. They call it equine, but the horse therapy he's going to start.
Let me just mention while we're on the topic of therapy that it's really important for us to be in touch with his therapist. So we don't just drop Bryce off at OT and speech and, he's going to come back a different person or whatever. We communicate. We have their cell phone numbers. And if there's a specific thing that Bryce is having difficulty with at home or with homeschool, like for speech, they're working with him on pronouns and I'll chime in. I'll text him. I'll say, you know what? He's really having trouble grasping this concept at homeschool. Can you guys help me with that?
Yeah.
And they're all over it. They're like, oh, absolutely. So they incorporate that into whatever lesson that they're doing with him. So for any of you guys out there, I encourage you, and they appreciate that also. They want to know those things so they can help your child as best as they can.
Well, it's very rewarding for them to see results, and the more information that they have about the child, the better chance they're going to have of having good results.
Yeah, and they tell me things that they're doing at therapy. I'm like, wow, I never even thought about doing that. Let me do that. As simple as when he's writing his sentences, his wrist is raised off of the table. And I've seen it before, and I don't know why he's doing it, but she mentioned that when he was writing, he was doing that. So she just kind of pushed his wrist down to the table while he was writing. And, I don't know why it didn't dawn on me, but, and then, some of the other therapies that they do, like, oh, that's a great idea. So I take that home and I incorporate those as much as I can.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm like I said, I'm just so happy we have a team now. I mean, it's been me and you for a while, but it's really great. So
back to horse therapy.
Yeah, no. So, we added a new member to our team today, basically, is it. And we did a phone interview earlier this week, and the lady who is the therapist there, I mean, she was so genuinely interested in Bryce. Like, I could feel that coming through the phone. And I knew then that I had a very, very good positive vibe going on. But then when we got there today for our meet and greet, we didn't know how Bryce would do with the horse because he hasn't taken much interest in many animals.
Right. I took him to a horse rescue before just to get him near horses, and he just did not seem to have any interest at all.
Petting zoos, he's not taken any interest in any of those when we've taken him. A regular zoo, feeding the giraffe was a highlight for him, and not even sure if he liked the goats. Maybe feeding the goats because he liked their reaction.
Feeding the goats, yeah. And one was trying to... Well, he fed them through the fence, right?
Yeah. So. You're thinking of our nephew Jackson when he was little.
He loved it.
And then they changed that so the goat can't get the kids' shirts.
Yeah.
But, so he really hasn't taken much interest in animals. And then over the summer, when we went on vacation, he took a great interest in our friend's little dog and walking the dog. That's kind of was what interested him, which was good. But, we've heard that horses in particular can be very calming and help reduce anxiety. And Bryce does have quite a bit of anxiety. As you can hear, he's wanting to protect people. He takes that on every day. And, he has a lot of fears still about rain or the dark or noises. You never know exactly what's going to trigger it. But we're very hopeful that by getting him into horse therapy, that will help him work through some of these fears that he has.
Reduces anxiety.
Yeah, and we prepped him for what he was going to be doing today. So he was actually really open-minded going over. And she has mini horses, like not as in a lot, but as in small. So they're like 2 mini horses.
Yeah.
And so that's the right size for Bryce. And so, it was really great that he was so receptive. I will say, because he is very mechanical. It was kind of funny because she's trying to show him the barn and the horse food and, things that were related to the horse and the instruments, because she's also going to do music therapy there as well. But instead of being interested in the things related to the horse, he was very fascinated with the fan that was in her barn and turning the lights. Well, he did say he wanted the lights on because it was dark. That was his thing. But when the fan came on and he heard it and he could see it spinning, that excited him. But then we told her, well, that's a great reward for him. So, if you're working with him and you need to give him that little extra incentive to do something, all you have to do is tell him that he can come back here and turn on the fan, and that would be a great reward for him. So she got to kind of, having us there today, we could kind of give her some insight into Bryce, I felt like. But I felt like we also got to witness her. We stepped back and let her kind of work with him to see how she would respond to him. And she was really, really great with like redirecting him. And like when she sat on it's called like a bucket that's turned over, right? But it had water in it. So he wouldn't sit on it. But she sat on it. And then he was worried about her because she was sitting in the water.
Right.
And he kept saying, you must get up. No, you must get up. You must,
Yeah.
But she was able to redirect him to the point that he actually played it like a drum and did it for her 2 different times because she got his mind refocused and accomplished that, and pet the horse. So I could see that.
And then he kissed the horse.
Yeah. So like she did a great job working with him. And we were, I don't want to say concerned, but there was a question mark there because she normally takes children that are 7 or older. And Bryce is a fresh 6. But he listens so well. And she saw that. He likes to please. And he is a good student in that way, that if she asks him to do something, he's going to listen and do that. So I think all this school structure that he has been good to help prepare him for something like this. Yeah, so
it's going to be good. He starts next week and we're excited.
Yeah, so that's another highlight that has come up in the last couple weeks. And then other than that, we've really just been enjoying this Christmas season, especially with Bryce. We had mentioned last time he is obsessed with Polar Express, and that has not changed. It's every day. In fact, we have to tell him it's once a day, and then on Saturday we'll let him do it twice because he doesn't have school that day. But it's really sweet, and he is beginning to understand the concept that Santa will be coming here, and he's counting down, and it's really fun for me and you, right? I mean,
last week we sent a letter to Santa in the mail. We put it in the mail, and then today he got a letter back from Santa saying that he was on the nice list, and he was very excited.
Yeah, and Chris used his Photoshop skills to put Bryce's name on a list with a picture of Santa, so that was really cool. So yeah, just lots of fun things that we're doing, and we're excited about the Christmas holiday. We have, on my side, all of the family is actually going to be in town. We have family coming in from Michigan and New York and then the Orlando area. So it's just going to be a lot of fun. Bryce will be there with all of his cousins and Mama and Papa. I think he'll do really good this year. I think he's going to understand a lot more. Last year you kind of missed it because you were sick and didn't get to go on Christmas Eve. And I recorded what I could for you, but he helped Dad hand out the gifts. So I thought we could get him a little, either an elf outfit, or we can do the Santa hat if you don't want him in an elf outfit.
That's
but
funny.
I think it would be cute, him dressed up and handing out the gifts, because he likes to dress up. So
He does like to dress.
He does. I think we could try something cool like that.
I think he's totally going to get Christmas this year, and he's just going to have a blast opening presents and just enjoying the whole time.
Yeah. And, and we're teaching him also, we had mentioned before, as Christians, we teach him about this being Jesus' birthday as well. And that's on the calendar. And you wrote out the sentence, or he wrote it out, right? Because he traced it. Jesus' birthday is on December 25th. And, so we're trying to give him a good, healthy balance, but definitely we have been enjoying it. And,
With
I know.
The Polar Express.
Yeah, right.
It's great.
Yeah. And, and it's often a topic that I hear when I'm listening to podcasts about how do parents relax, or how do you find a chance to reduce your stress, or self-care comes up. What is self-care for you, and how do you define that, and what could you recommend? So for Chris and I, you and I were talking about simplifying life for 2020. I mean, we've claimed the word, it's out there. We're even going to do we're going to put some written stuff out there to make it actually happen. And look at last year's goals and compare them and set new goals for this year, but really simplifying and making the best use of our time, and so one of the things that we did for Christmas was we wrote out a list, and you and I get stressed buying a lot of gifts for each other. It just has not worked well. Actually, our whole marriage has really not been about buying gifts for us. We would usually say, okay, you take X amount of money and go buy yourself something. Or we would say we love to travel, especially pre-Bryce when we traveled a lot. We'd be like, okay, let's go here for a trip for Christmas. And that was like our gift, which was perfectly fine with us. But this year, it was the same thing. Okay, do you want me to buy you $100 worth of chocolate gift cards because you like to eat chocolate at Kilwin's, or would you like to take that 100 and buy something that you would like because you're wanting to work on your music, and I know I'm wanting some new clothes. I don't buy for myself very often, and neither do you. So we're not in that position to do that. So, okay, so we carved out a little bit, but then we're like, well, what can we do together as a gift? And you had mentioned a fire pit because you had just gone to a friend's house and used it. And you're like, I had no idea.
Our men's group.
How relaxing it could be. And, we live in South Florida. So let me tell you, you don't think about fire pits very often because it's blazing hot a lot of the year. But we just happened to get a little cold front that came through, leaving it cooler in the evening. So Santa delivered early. And last week we had our fire pit, and it really was peaceful. And the sky was like just full of the stars, and we could sit out there.
It was relaxing.
Yeah. And you were actually a little cold, and I'm like, well, you can wear a jacket out here. It's okay.
I'm no, bigger fire.
Yeah. So I'm like, save the firewood. But no, it's really been good. And for Bryce, this is another thing, because our friends up in Canada, they have a fire pit, and he really was afraid of that during the summer. But he will watch us out there now, and he let us sit out there without saying we were in danger. That's step number one. That's big for him.
He wouldn't come over to where we were sitting, but he was close.
But he allowed us to sit, and he got a little bit closer. So that's something we will gradually work with him. And but I think it's important to find ways to reduce stress. And I think you read an article that said, was it fire pit specifically, or a fire, like a fireplace?
Well, I think, like
and
a fireplace,
fire
pit, fish tank. Those were a few things that they mentioned. And
we have a rather large fish tank that Chris keeps for us.
Yeah.
So between the fire and the fish, we're keeping Chris calm. It's good.
So you don't need any of the calming things?
So my calming thing
is a bath.
It is a bath. But I do need, for my bath, though, I need some good salts. Oh. And I hope to get stocked with some good salts.
Speaking of baths, that will lead us into our new blog.
There you go.
We just started a blog on our website, parentingautismshow.com. Just click on the blog tab, and I posted our first post there, and it's about Bryce washing himself, the difficulty that we've had, and the revelation that I had the other day, and that's helping him wash himself. So you can learn more about washing on our first blog post.
Yes, we're working on independent skills, and Bryce being able to bathe himself completely is definitely one of those that we want to master, in 2020. So,
and while I'm thinking about it, I want to mention the other way to find us or listen to us easily. If you have an Alexa in your home, you can just tell Alexa, play Parenting Autism podcast, and she'll pull up our latest episode and play it for you.
Yeah,
just
Chris
as simple
tested,
as that.
You tested that last night when we were in
did,
the bedroom.
I was like, oh, cool.
Then all of a sudden, there we were in the room on the radio or on Alexa. It was kind of cool. I felt like a semi-celebrity.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so lots of good stuff here. I don't know. I think we're going to plan to do one more podcast before the end of the year. I have something brewing in my mind. We'll see if it comes to fruition. So we won't wish you a happy new year just yet. But
plus, we're picking up some pieces of equipment so that we can start our having local guests on our podcast.
Yep, you're going to still have me and Chris having our own because we enjoy it. And you talk about stress relief. This is a stress reliever for me. I'll tell you, it's time to do a podcast. I need to unload. It's good. And we really enjoy just having conversations with us. But yeah, we're going to start having, probably start with one guest a month. And then we'll see what else is in store for 2020. But we're going to wrap up here. We hope that you have a wonderful day or evening, whatever time you're listening to this. We really, really appreciate you coming and checking us out. If this is your first time, really, we welcome you and appreciate it. If you continue to come back and listen to us, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. If you get a chance and you can rate and review us so that others can find us, it's a big thank you for that as well.
Yep.
And I would say
next time.
Till next time, we're out of here. Bye.
See ya.